Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the June 3rd, 2009 School Committee Business Meeting. And with that, I'd like to ask Superintendent Webster to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll just hold on one second, folks. Sean, do you have a second? Could you come up here for a second, please? Thank you. Nothing covert happening here, folks. Yeah. Okay, agenda item number 2 is recognition of student representative RJ to her service to the Lewiston School Committee. So RJ, I'll meet you right at the podium. So RJ is graduating this year, and she served 2 years as the school committee student representative. And I was part of this committee for just over a year, and she did a great job representing the students every meeting. I mean, for the most part, you had something to share with the committee. RJ is going to be attending UMO for computer science. She's not quite sure what she's going to do with that yet, but she has time to think about it. RJ attended a summer program at Upward Bound at Bowdoin College, and she participated in the Olympia Snow Leadership Program, and she did some tutoring of math students. So RJ, it's with great pleasure that we present this certificate of appreciation to you.
Thank you.
All right.
That's why she has graduated. Wow. She's finished everything. And actually, she didn't go to graduation.
Okay, agenda item number 3 is recognizing the retiring superintendent, Bill Webster.
Would you like to have me?
Yes, please. You want to do a picture? So I have some brief comments, but I also invited a previous chair of the school committee, Linda Scott, who served many years with Bill, to also say some words. Before I, share a couple of basic things, Bill's assistant, Sue Turgeon, just wanted to make sure that I shared that you were the best boss ever. So I've done that. Bill started for the district in 2011, and during that period, he has been recognized by the Maine State Superintendents Association in May of 2018, and Outstanding Leadership Award was given to you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I served 6 years on the city council and worked with Bill, mostly during budget times. And I just, there are 2 things I'd like to say about Bill. He truly served as superintendent during some of the most difficult fiscal times this city has ever seen. That recession that hit our community, and we still haven't recovered from it. So I would not want to be in charge of a school district or a city during those times. So Bill, that was a lot of work, and I know you had long, stressful days because of the recession. And then the other thing that I've noticed since being on the school committee, I don't know a person who works the number of hours in a week that you do, other than my father. But I think you topped him twofold. Your weeks have to at least be 60-hour weeks. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Linda Scott.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank you first for calling me this afternoon and letting me know this was on the agenda. I didn't prepare any statements, and I'm going to be honest with you, I may get a little emotional. So I started on the school board just after Bill became the superintendent, and I think that we learned a lot together. There were many times that we didn't agree with each other, but we always talked about things, and Bill was always willing to be there and listen and help out, not just new school board members, but school board members that have been on the board all the time. And I found that very admirable. But the one thing that I want to address the most is what you did for our community. So prior to being on the school board, I was PTO president at Pettingill School, and I was very active in my kids' education and at schools. And one of the things I felt that was lacking was the kids didn't know who the superintendent of our schools was. And I think Bill made a huge difference in our community in letting our children know, not just the children, but the kids, the staff, everybody. You were always there at the forefront, always there, bringing things, a different light to things, tweeting. I never want to be in your spot to have to make the decision on a snow day or anything else. But he always did it. He made the right decision when nobody thought it was the right decision, but you did it with humility, and you did it with it. I don't even know how to express my admiration for you and my thank for you for being our superintendent. From the bottom of my heart. Thank you. And you'll miss me. I didn't just learn everything from him. He became my friend, and that just means a lot. And I thank you all. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. So, Bill, in recognition of many years of outstanding service to Lewiston Public Schools, your commitment, passion, and dedication to the students of Lewiston will truly be missed. We wish you smooth sailing, and anyone who knows Bill knows what that's all about, on your new adventure, and much respect and gratitude. Your retirement is truly deserved with a job well done. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you so much. Well, I didn't expect this tonight. I thank you all very much for participating in it with me. And I'll just say a few words that serving as superintendent of Lewiston Schools, representing you and the students of Lewiston has been the pinnacle of my professional career. I love the city with all its challenges and all its work. It has so much commitment. It has such passion among its residents, and there's just so much wonderful stuff happening here, and I'm blessed to have been part of it. So I thank you all very much.
Okay, agenda item number 7 is the consent agenda. Are there any items that members want to remove from the consent agenda? Mr. Jensen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The minutes from the May 20th meeting.
If there's no other objection with the rest of the agenda items, it'll be adopted. And moving on to the minutes of May 20th. Mr. Jensen?
Just noticed at the very end, I made the motion to adjourn. It doesn't show a second on there. It probably was Miss Roy.
So they'll review the tape to see who actually seconded it. So with that, is there any objection to, so we have to actually vote on that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the May 20th minutes with the requested change. Moved by Ms. Quartermash, seconded by Mr. Jensen. Any comments? All in favor? Unanimous. Agenda item number 5 is public input. Members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on non-agenda items now and on agenda items later during that period. Comments that pertain to staff, personnel matters or student issues should be directed to the superintendent or the appropriate staff member of Lewiston Public Schools. Public comments shall be directed to the school committee and be brief, not repetitive, and related to the matter at hand. Do we have anyone who would like to speak during public comment period? Okay, moving on. Agenda item number 6, report from the student representative. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. So awards and recognition for academic excellence for grades 9 through 12 were held today. And also, last week, a Somali-American main author, Abu Noor, shared his journey of his American story to 250 LHS students. And his story both inspired me and other LHS students to be proud of the life they built in America, growing up from another country. Lewiston Youth Advisory Council interviews are being held June 14th from 2:15 to 5:30. And lastly, I'd like to say that the programming class at LHS is working on their end-of-the-year projects where they take drones and make a big music show out of it, like the Bellagio fountains. You guys should come out and see it. It's really cool. Possibly like next week, end of next week.
Friday night at graduation.
Oh, that'd be nice.
All right, very good. Anything else? Thank you very much. Now, is this your last meeting, or do you attend all through the summer? Okay. That should be part of the commitment, don't you think, of student representatives? I mean, you get a certificate at the end. All right, moving on. Agenda item number 7, to receive and approve the following. Field trip request by Martell Elementary School to go to Funtown, USA on June 17th, 2019. And a field trip request by Longley Elementary School to go to Funtown, USA on the same date. We have a teacher, Megan Laprise, thank you, and Ed Tech Hillary Bueller. Oh yeah. Perfect.
And Principal Don Fryer.
Correct.
All right, and Don Ferraro is also present. Thank you. All set, folks.
Me first?
Sure.
Okay, so my name is Megan Laprise. I teach 6th grade at Martell Elementary. We have planned with Longley Elementary for a fun town trip for our 6th grade class as a way to build community, as a way to show graduation to the middle school. And we thought it would be a great way to sort of join both schools together on the day that the rest of the school is going to Connors. So I thought that it would be great.
Absolutely. And it's definitely a great way to celebrate with the kids all the growth that they've had and the change and like, everyone together. So, and the promotion to a new phase in their life. So it's a great way to end the year. Absolutely enjoy it.
Any questions from committee members? Ms. Ray?
So it sounds like the rest of the school communities are going to be gathering together, and I assume what is happening with the 6th grade teachers who will then be at Connors next year.
The 6th grade teachers, we've met as a team together, and we thought it would be a great way for us to come together as a team as well, to be able to have our small groups sort of mingle together for us to sort of team build on a field trip. So we thought it would be a great way for us to be able to bond, even though we won't be physically at Connors that day.
That's great. Thank you for having a response to that.
Any other questions? Then I'll entertain a motion for approval of the two requested field trips. Moved by Mr. Jensen. Seconded by Ms. Whitlow. Any further comments? To the public? Oops, I'm sorry, Ms. Roy.
So it's not that I don't like fun, but it's going to sound like this, and I'm going to beat this drum as long as I sit in this chair. I'm not sure that these types of trips, because I get the team building aspect sort of, but they are always a risk and a liability to the district. I don't see, there's no educational value to them in my opinion, and I see them as a liability to the district.
Any other questions, comments? And just, would you like the opportunity to respond to
I would
that
like the
concern?
opportunity to respond.
Yep,
Thank
please do.
you. We do see that there is academic value to this trip. During this third trimester, we have been focusing in on narrative as well as informational writing, and we've tied that to global warming. We went around Martell and we picked up trash. We think that we want to take a look at the trash receptacles that are there, our carbon footprint, as well as global warming.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments from the committee? From the public? Back to the committee? If not, all in favor? Opposed? Ms. Roy. Okay, agenda item number 8, to receive a presentation regarding the accomplishments of the computer science for Lewiston Public Schools program. Coding Initiative Coordinator Alicia Sorensen Briggs.
My name is Alicia Biggs, and I am the Computer Science Coordinator for Lewiston Public Schools. I'm here tonight just to share some of the celebrations that we've accomplished this year with the newly rebranded program, CS for LPS. That is Computer Science for Lewiston Public Schools, formerly known as the Coding Initiative. So before I jump in, what is coding and what is computer science? It's usually the first question I get, so I wanted to open with that to make sure that we're all on the same page here. Computer science is the study of computers and all the phenomena that arise around them. Coding is one aspect of computer science. Coding is the language that programmers use to tell a computer what to do. You can think of it as a recipe. You have to follow a very specific set of instructions in order to get the results that you want. Coding is like a recipe. To give you some examples, computer science it's computational thinking. It is problem solving. As I mentioned, it's learning a computer programming language. That's what coding is. Languages like HTML, JavaScript. These are things that our cell phones, our computers, our iPads, that the world of the internet is built on. Computer science is using these languages to send commands to objects, like sending commands to a robot. Computer science is used for students to create apps, videos, websites, or video games, websites, software. Whenever you tap open Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat on your phone, that was built with computer science using these programming languages that I mentioned. And most importantly, computer science is a science. It is an established field that has a specific set of processes from beginning, middle to end that is well researched. Students will test their hypothesis, ask for feedback, the same process that a scientist would go through testing something in the lab. Computer science follows that same procedure. Computer science is not teaching typing. Computer science is not teaching productivity tools, Microsoft Office, Word, Excel. We classify that as something called digital literacy. It's how students interact with their computer, how they use it. That is digital literacy. We are trying to teach them, how do you build something out of this? How do you become a producer instead of just a consumer? Computer science is also not making a song in GarageBand or posting a video on YouTube. Computer science is not hardware-related issues. It is not installing printers or fixing cracked screens. That we would consider computer engineering. And last, computer science is not teaching students how to use social media properly. While that is digital citizenship, it is a foundation of computer science. We believe it's important that students have to understand digital literacy, digital citizenship, maybe pick up a little bit of computer engineering along the way, but those categories are not computer science. So now that we're all working on the same kind of basic ground level understanding of what computer science is, I'd like to show you what we've accomplished this year in Lewiston Public Schools. In the beginning of the school year, oh, sorry, I skipped ahead of myself. The vision of computer science for Lewiston Public Schools, you can see it up here on the board. I'll give you a moment to read. So this is where computer science for Lewiston Public Schools wants to go. This is what we want to accomplish in our time here in Lewiston. And how we're going to get there is written by our mission statement. This vision and mission statement was designed by a group of teachers, administrators, directors, and instructional coaches at a 2-day-long workshop here in Lewiston in March. And one of the reasons why we chose the name that we did, Computer Science for LPS, is because we partnered with a national organization who helped us provide the tools to write this vision and mission statement. That national organization is Computer Science for All. And the reason that we partnered with them is because they truly do mean computer science for every single student, regardless of their background, ethnicity, race, ability, or disability. It's computer science is accessible for every single student in Lewiston Public Schools. And that is what we hope to gain by reaching our mission, vision through our mission. So now, how did we do that? We did that first by teaching the educators, because I come in, I say computer science, and tend to get a lot of blank stares. So we did that by teaching the LRTC staff how to fly drones, doing some problem solving, and they had to code the drones to get through an obstacle course. And we did hour of code activities with other staff, such as at Farwell Elementary School that you can see here. Our next target audience are parents. We hosted 2 family code nights this year, one at Montello and one at Longley for Longley and Martell. And altogether, we had over 400 families attend these events. One of the reasons we hosted these events so early on is that because according to code.org, 90% of families or parents want their students to take computer science, but less than 35% of schools offer that opportunity. So this was kind of the first step in our PR tour to show, hey, we are going to offer this at your school. We want to teach you about it, and we want to keep you engaged in our efforts. This is a big hurdle, computer science for every student at Lewiston Public Schools. So we do have to look at who can help us with this work. We made a number of community connections, both with businesses and local organizations. Lewiston Public Library, Carbonite, have come to a number of our events to support and help out. We've also made connections with the University of Southern Maine, Central Maine Community College, University of Maine, Kepware, and I'm missing one, Southern Maine Community College. These are all organizations who are actively looking to partner with us and bring computer science opportunities to schools, especially knowing that not a lot of educators are familiar with computer science. So we have these organizations coming to help us not just teach the students, but teach the teachers as well. And there goes my presentation. It's always fun when the technical person has technical difficulties. There we go. We got our families, organizations. We connected with national partners this year as well. Lewiston Public Schools was recognized at Code.org's annual Computer Science Education Kickoff because of our commitment to computer science for our district. We were also the first district in Maine to partner with the national organization Computer Science for All. So we have our parents, we have our students, we know what resources are out there to help us. Now, what does that look like? Computer Science Education Week happens the first week of every December, and we did a plethora of events to try and reach all Lewiston students. At the middle school, we took over the middle school for a half day and did a day's worth of coding activities with students. And then at the high school, throughout the course of that week, we worked with every single 9th grade student, having them complete an hour of code. One of the biggest hurdles with computer science is that it tends to be a white male-dominated field. And one of our grant's donors, his wife recognized, or asked me point blank, what are you doing to support our women in computer science? What are you doing to support our young girls? And as a result of that conversation, in addition to the initial coding grant, Lewiston received a 3-year, $100,000 donation from Barbara Rue specifically to support Girls Who Code. With those funds, we have started 2 chapters of Girls Who Code, one at the middle school and one at the high school. At the middle school, through both the Coding Initiative funds and Barbara Rue's donation, we have managed to add 4 additional opportunities in addition to the long-withstanding LEGO Robotics team. We have Girls Who Code, Let's Start Coding, and we started 2 after-school programs with 21st Century. One was Basic Coding Club using code.org, and the second was using Q robots. They are these fun little tripod robots that students learn how to use basic block programming to send commands to. And so at the middle school right now, they have been using them in their math lessons. So if you picture a coordinate plane, the math teachers are having students demonstrate that they can understand reflection, translation, using the Q robots to draw the reflection of, say, a triangle.
So did that additional funding for girls really make a difference? I mean,
yes.
It did.
We are using that funding to exclusively host our Girls Who Code Club after school at the high school. It is providing the snacks, supplies for them, and it is also providing funds for our middle school Girls Who Code coordinator to attend the Computer Science Teachers Association conference in Phoenix this year. Next year at the middle school, we've also rebranded the computational thinking class. Computational thinking is a very large topic, so we wanted to focus it in and it's narrow, and it'll be computer science next year. Allison Avery, the teacher for that, will also be joining us at the Computer Science Teachers Association conference in Phoenix this summer. And then at our elementary level, with the addition of the STEM programs this year, I had sat with the STEM teachers and Sue Williams over the summer, and we designed a 4-week computer science unit for every STEM class without having regular access to technology. So we got pretty creative on how we're going to teach our kids the fundamentals of computer science without guaranteeing that they might have access to a computer. Halfway through the school year, as I was telling the same story, another networking connection of our donors donated $40,000 from the Hudson Foundation, and now every K6 STEM classroom has access to a cart of Chromebooks. As a result of this, next year, each student at the elementary school, when they go through STEM class, will have a trimester that opens with a little bit of digital citizenship, so how do we behave properly online and with our computers, and then it'll dive into another 4-week intensive unit of computer science. So overall this year, we've done a lot. We've reached about 2,500 elementary school students through our STEM program. We had 750 middle school students participate in our Day of Code. We had 400 families attend our 2 family code nights. We had 320 elementary students at Martell and Longley complete an hour of code. 290 high school students, this is a freshman class, completed an hour of code this year as well. 40 students participated in our 6 newly established coding clubs at both the middle school and the high school. We were the first district in Maine recognized by the national organization CS for All. We were also the first district in Maine to host the Script workshop, strategic CS for All resource implementation planning tool. And that's what helped us design our vision, our mission, and our goals for CS for LPS. And we were also the first district in Maine to host the Maine Department of Education's newly established computer science work group. So what's next? First, for next year, we recognize that we need to even strengthen our relationships with our organizations and local businesses. So we plan to establish an advisory board, both to learn from the experts and make more opportunities for professionals to come into the classroom so our students can see the real world engagement of computer science and where it can lead them. We want to host 3 family code nights next year. Continue to maintain our existing programs. This year we reached 75% of Lewiston students. My goal, I think I started at like 35, and Bill pushed me, he's like, no, go bigger, and we landed on 50. By the end of the year, there was so much excitement and momentum around it that we reached 75% of students. We want to maintain that number and increase the rigor of the options that are available to them. You heard me talk a lot about the middle school and the elementary school today. We do have a lot of room to grow at our high school. So next year, our focus will be what other programs can we bring to Lewiston High School beyond an after-school coding club and 1 intro to programming class. And continue playing. We're having a lot of fun with the Q robots and the Ozobots, and I could sit up here and say all these names at you of hardware that we've bought. And the students, their eyes light up when we come in the room with a cart of Chromebooks and some Ozobots, and we want to increase that research. Not just having students explore it, but how can we tie, say, the Q robot lesson to more math standards in classrooms? And here is all of our contact information. If you'd like to see our monthly newsletter, they're also available on here, and our Twitter account, where all the fun, new, and exciting things that students and teachers are doing are available there. We have a few moments for questions.
Thank you very much. That
Yes.
sounds really exciting.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're really doing a good job.
Thank you.
Superintendent Webster spoke highly of your program. Ms. Whitlow?
Thank you. Your presentation was great. You're a great speaker. You can tell you enjoy what you do. So thank you. I know that the goodness, my mind just went blank. The rec department, the Lewiston rec department, does Lego robotics. Do you guys collaborate with them at all?
Not yet. This year, my focus was supporting the existing Lego robotics team at the middle school. Our grant was able to provide new robots for them to compete. But as next year, one of our goals is to continue building those community relationships. So I'll definitely look into it.
So I question, reason why I asked that is because I think it's a pretty newer program for them. And my son does it. And I think it's an amazing program, and I didn't know that we had all of that stuff in the middle school. And it would be really great for them to get excited about not just an after-school program through the rec, but to continue knowing that they could continue that as they get older. I think that'd be great. So, and I know that the initiative with the girls coding is fantastic. I would encourage you to look into kids that have learning disabilities that don't thrive in regular classrooms to get them involved.
So actually tomorrow I'll be visiting a special ed classroom at Farwell to do some computer science activities. And if I may have a moment to share an anecdote from that same classroom. Earlier this year we were doing Hour of Code in this class with this teacher. And these students were doing basic block coding, which is putting things in sequential order. And they had to get, I think, a B to navigate through a field. And the blocks had arrows going up, right, left, and down. And there were 2 students who were kind of getting a little rowdy, so I walked over, and they're like, this is too easy, this is too boring, I've done this before. So I changed their puzzle to a Star Wars puzzle where you have to get a tauntaun to go through the ice, and you get the picture. And instead of arrows on the blocks, there's actually text written out. Didn't think anything of it. Students went off, they made it, I don't know, 13, 14 puzzles in, and the teacher had pulled me aside. She's like, why did you give them that particular puzzle? I'm like, it was the next one in the sequence. And she said, those two students can't read very well. And they were completing a puzzle, working together on something that was about a 3rd or 4th grade reading level. So yes, special education is definitely on my forefront.
Ms. Roy?
This is awesome work. Very excited. I remember talking with you when we had the technology subcommittee, real brief, and I was excited. You've done so much in the past year. I was thinking about, you're talking about the high school and expanding at the high school. Do you also envision creating internship opportunities for students who are practicing coding with our local businesses? Because I don't know that kids get to practice. You were talking about real world.
Yep.
And I don't think there's enough internship opportunities for high school students. They're waiting for everybody to go to college, but they're hungry for it. So I would just, I guess, encourage you to maybe look into that when you're talking with local business.
I will. Thank you for the recommendation.
Ms. Ray?
Thank you also for this presentation. I think it's great. The one comment or question, I suppose, so there was the grant for the hardware for the STEM work. Is that something that LPS then implemented, or did we use all funding for purchasing and upkeep of those machines?
The latter. That $40,000 fund specifically went to purchasing 5 carts of 24 Chromebooks each and accessories for each of the 5 K-6 teachers, STEM teachers.
I think in the past, and this is no reflection on you, but just making sure that we know where funds are coming from, because grants obviously aren't always repeatable. But I think this is really incredible work, and I sit on the Lewiston Education Fund as well, and we get so many requests for robotics programs, and there's a real need for it from both teachers and students. So I'm really encouraged by this and by all of the data and information you're providing alongside it. So thank you for that.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? To the public? Back to the committee? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
All right, have a good evening. Agenda item number 9, to receive an update from the legislative liaison, committee member Roy.
There used to be a team of us.
Really?
Sort of like on negotiations. I don't know what keeps happening here.
Well, I did my part. I called you today and asked you if you were ready for it.
So it has been super busy. So as you all know, but just to say it out loud, on the Maine School Board Association's state committee as well. And since January, every Tuesday we meet to go over all of the bills that are going through the process. From the first meeting at 34 bills that we looked at to the last one, it was 3. So there have been an unprecedented amount of bills coming through the legislature this year, and committees, including the Education Committee, have been overwhelmed with all of them, but they're starting to whittle down. And right now, bills that have made it past their committees and moving forward in the process still may have fiscal notes that will not be supported through the budget process. So there's a long way to go still when it comes to attaching money to a lot of these bills. So I thought I would hit some of the highlights, some of the ones that we've been discussing more than once. LD 240, an act to allow public employers of teachers to negotiate regarding educational policies. So this bill, if passed, would allow teachers to negotiate educational policy in their contracts, which isn't something that is allowed now. Right now, it's the job of the school committee to create and upkeep ed policy. LD 1177, an act to improve public sector labor relations. Some of these titles don't match anything that's in the bill, so that's why I have a little description. It's like, I don't know how this matches up, but this would allow basically, this is another negotiations bill that would allow things like salary to go to arbitration, which that's not a thing right now. So this could be very expensive for school districts as it allows someone from the outside to decide what the pay will be for our district, for our teachers. And so that one could be detrimental to our budgets. LD 990, an act to expand the right of public employees under the Maine labor laws. That is basically the right to strike. Then LD 898, an act to provide a professional wage and statewide teacher contracts. So we just got a memo today, and Bill updated us a little bit, as I put it, stole my thunder a little bit. So the appropriation, this is from the memo from the Maine School Management Association. The Appropriations Committee on Friday approved a 3-year ramp up to a $40,000 starting salary for all teachers in the state, honoring the governor's commitment to a higher base statewide, while recognizing some districts simply could not absorb the increase at all at once. The money for the ramp up will go to districts as targeted funds. General purpose aid to students, which goes out through the funding formula, was unanimously approved, and an earlier vote at the levels proposed by Governor Mills, which is $28.6 million in the first year and $52.8 million in the second year. The votes on the committee were unanimous. So I don't know if I should read this whole thing, but the ramp up calls for a base of $35,000 in school year 2020 through 2021, $37,500 in school year 2021 to 2022, and $40,000, which was the goal, in school year 2022-23. The proposal also calls for the state to pay 100% reimbursement to districts for those increases over the 3 years. The ramp up was done in recognition that property tax payers in districts where salary schedules have multiple steps below $40,000 simply could not afford to do it all at once. As far as revenue sharing, the committee also cited the need for property tax relief in its vote to increase municipal revenue sharing. So under the proposal, revenue sharing will go from the current 2% of state sales and income tax revenues to 3% in the first year of the biennium and 3.7% in the second. The total revenue distributed under the program will increase from the current $74 million to roughly $105 million in fiscal year 2020 and $143 million in fiscal year 2021. This is all, again, according to the Maine Municipal Association. And Bill, in your memo today, could you just talk a little bit about how it will affect Lewiston School District?
Certainly, thank you. So for this year and the next year, it will have no impact on Lewiston because we have 2 years to go on our present teacher's contract. Except that in the last year of the teacher's contract, our minimum is $36,300, I believe, and it requires a minimum of $37,500. So for any teacher at that first level, they'll get an increase to $37,500, and the state will pay us that direct cost. For the following year, when the minimum is $40,000, it also is a year in which the year prior we will be negotiating a new teacher's contract. So depending on the outcome of those contract negotiations, we will either receive, if the minimum is less than $40,000, additional funding for that year from the state, or if it's $40,000 or more for that first level, we will not receive any funding. And just to be clear, one thing that no district will receive any funding on is any ripple effect that increasing the first step will have on all the other steps above it.
Thank you. One more that we'll be discussing tomorrow, an act to expand and clarify the prohibition of hazing at elementary schools, secondary schools, and post-secondary institutions. It looks like they're expanding the definition for what hazing means, and it's across the board. So I would encourage, this one is LD 1765. If hazing, bullying, those kinds of things is something that you're very interested in, I would look up this bill. And I think it's on the agenda to be discussed. It might have been today, but I think it's this week.
Thank you. I'd like to just touch on one thing. the increase in revenue sharing, although it sounds good. Back during the recession, it was at 5%, and there were significant cuts made to revenue sharing by the state. So we're not even close to really where it should be. And that did, I think, serious damage to this community over the years. So it's nice to see it moving in the right direction again, but I wish the state would have went right to the 5% where by law they're supposed to be at. So, Ms. Ray?
And to bang that revenue sharing drum again, the 3% will be an extra 1.45 million to Lewiston for next fiscal year. So perhaps call your legislatures.
Although now I think it's out of appropriations. Is it out of, yeah. No? Yeah, call your legislators then, call your legislators. Yeah, the city of Lewiston lost several $1 million during one of the most difficult times that this community's had in over 50 years. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Jensen?
Just thinking, if it does go through and we are reimbursed, would that mean that we have to come up with the extra money ourselves and then just get paid back by the state? So we'd probably have to potentially raise taxes or find other cuts in the budget.
Reference to teacher pay?
Yeah.
So the state, in with revenue sharing, the net effect of that presumably is going to be to reduce the city side of taxes, which may or may make the council more accommodating to increase taxes on the school side to support these additional wages that are in effect required by law. So interesting times.
Mr. Shannon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it's important that as a board on some of these bills that we take a position that as the management part of the equation in the education system, we do or don't support certain bills. I especially am concerned about LD 240, educational policy under current Maine law would become the purview of negotiations under this new proposed legislation. It has never been so in the state, and in my honest opinion, that's letting the fox watch the hen house. Just doesn't, it's not going to be normal operations of a school system. It's just not going to be. And I would propose to this committee that at some point before this legislation goes to the House or the Senate, whichever's going to vote on it first, that we make a statement of our position on the bills that will change the dynamics of law in the state of Maine and the established law that has been ruled by the law court about who is and who isn't responsible for selecting educational policy choices in a school district. I cannot believe that we are gone to the point in the state where we want to give that to a bargaining unit to decide what education will be offered to the children of the city of Lewiston. I believe Lewistonians want that to be decided by elected officials so that they can trounce us properly at the polls the next time we run if they're not happy with our choices. If it's in a contract, it'll never be voted on again by the citizens of Lewiston. Ever. And that's a risk that we take that will be detrimental to our students. So I encourage the board to think hard about resolutions in support or non-support of each of these pieces of legislation, and that our next meeting being June 24th, that the budget is liable to be approved by that time since they like to go home July 1st.
So I would encourage you during agenda item number 14 just to quickly repeat that, not the whole background, but just that one sentence, and we can put on a future agenda.
So, if I may, because I think it's quite likely that June 24th would be too late. I'm not advocating this, but the only other scheduled meeting of this board is student hearings on this Wednesday. If there were something specific that was going to not take undue amount of time, that would be one possibility. I don't know how our, I guess if I may, a question for School Member Roy, has the MSBA proposed a motion that a local board might adopt? Hmm.
No. We have opposed these things, and actually, April 16th, we gathered members from across the district, across the state from different school boards to show up in the Senate and talk with their legislators, and explain, because a lot of these things seem almost benign if you're not familiar with what that means overall. This one in particular had started out with a whole broad range of educational policy that could be negotiated, and now I think it's just down to professional development. It's been edited and edited and edited. I would think that if you allow one, eventually more would come and more pressure would come that way. So, I think it's important for you to speak with your representatives on this and talk. And Bill has sent out communication. There's been communication from the Maine School Board Associations, maybe the Maine Superintendent Association, but communication about how this bill, the arbitration bill, the right to strike bills, how all of these erode at local control from the citizens' point of view. That's what we were elected for, and so it's detrimental to that piece. I'm always open, and you probably weren't here to hear me say this several times before, but for you to share your opinions with me when we have these meetings, we are opposed or for, and it's good to know our own position. I can keep you abreast of when testimony is happening, and again, to show up at the State House and knowing when things are going to be voted on, to talk to people, but always that communication, that direct line communication with your representatives is the best way to push that forward.
So I would say, Monique and I think, have each called many of our delegate members, but I would encourage every school committee members to do that. And then I'll throw out there, our next meeting is Wednesday, scheduled for disciplinary hearing. Do we want to just add an agenda item to that to quickly review a few resolutions? I know your opinion, Mr. Shannon, you can repeat it, but.
Unless someone's opposed, I would make the motion now that we send a letter signed by the chairman and the superintendent of schools to express our displeasure with all of these pieces of legislation as they negatively impact local control over local education.
So right to strike, I personally don't have an issue with, but giving up local control in our budget and with budget items and policy, I have an issue with. So.
The right to strike is not just for teachers, by the way. It's any employee. It's through boards. That's right.
The way I look at it, if a group of teachers in a school district are at a point they want to strike, there's probably other issues going on in that district.
I would think so.
So I personally don't have an issue with that, and I wouldn't want collectively as a group say against it. And that's why I just think we should quickly look at each one individually and let the committee decide. I like your idea about several of them, but that's just my opinion. If the committee wants to do the letter, it would be the decision of the committee. Ms. Ray?
So what I would say is we do have a meeting on Wednesday. However, a number of us cannot make it due to work schedules. And so I don't know that would be, you might have a majority, but I don't know that it would be wholly representative of all of the feelings of the committee, which is unfortunate. But I would say that. And then the second thing is that committee member Roy has been duly elected to this MSBA committee, which has expressed its opinion and has folks in the State House working on this legislation. So I think it's always wise for us to put out resolutions, but having not had the forethought to get it on this agenda, it's a timing issue.
And, and I apologize, Mr. Shannon, you made a motion, so I just don't. Oh, okay. All right. All right. I just wanted to make sure I allowed opportunity for a second if it was a motion. Mr. Shannon, go ahead.
I think it's important that we understand the history of continuing contracts for teachers One of the reasons they don't have the right to strike in the state of Maine is because they have continuing contracts, which is a protection for the employee against being treated badly. And right now, what they're asking for is a continuing contract so they can go on strike and still have a job when they're done. I think we need to change a lot of things. If we're going to change the horse in front of the cart, we got to fix the cart too. You can't just do one half of that equation. Otherwise, it's several foxes watching the hen house.
Okay, any other questions, comments, or potential motions? Mr. Jensen.
I can be supportive of, just at the meeting going through quickly each of the legislative issues and maybe giving a statement on it, even if it is only like 5 of us. It's maybe giving our legislative delegation at least some input to what the majority want. I think we have to have 5 votes for motion to pass anyways. Yeah, I wish we had more time on this. I think that's really the big thing. But I could be supportive of doing something on Wednesday. At least let our delegation know somewhat officially what we're feeling.
Okay, so we need a motion. Anyone? No? Very good. Very good. All right, any other question or comments to the public?
Sorry. This is new finagled system for me. I'm not used to all this, I guess. Linda Scott, 45 Pettingill Street. So just want to advise what Mr. Shannon is saying. I think that you should seriously think about. I was also the legislative liaison, and even though you have the process where you have the opportunity to speak to the legislators, and I absolutely agree with Ms. Roy that you need to call the legislators, there is a strong voice when the school committee gets together and makes a resolution. When it particularly comes to the policy making, I think that that's something that you may want to seriously consider, at least with that one, sending something out soon. The time frame on this comes very quickly, and if you wait longer than a Wednesday or further than that, they may not get to hear that, this is something that you're seriously concerned about. Personally, I would put it as a separate thing. That's just me, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to say that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If none, we'll move. Well, so agenda item number 10 is an update on the equity statement, and we probably should put that off until Megan's here. Would you agree? Okay. I'm looking at Bobby because Bobby and Megan have been working closely on that. Yep. Moved by Mr. Shannon, seconded by Ms. Ray. All in favor? Unanimous. (11) Report from the City Council representative, Ms. Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, Eid Mubarak to everyone. Ramadan will be ending tomorrow officially, so I know that a lot of our families in the community are celebrating, and I hope it was a really great month. I also want to thank the Islamic Cultural Center for having some local elected officials to an iftar dinner last night. It was really wonderful to connect with folks in the community and hear about Ramadan and have a chance to really ask some honest questions. I think it will make me a better official knowing what our community is experiencing during this time. So that was all great. In City Council news, last Tuesday we met in workshop to discuss a couple of items. Probably the most pertinent to the school committee is our marijuana policy and ordinances within Lewiston regarding both medical and adult use marijuana. We have a draft of the rules that we are working on clarifying further before adoption. So I would encourage, it's really long, otherwise I would give you some of the quick hits. There are some provisions for setbacks from schools. We're starting to discuss if daycare should have a setback or not. Some of us are in favor, some of us are not, but I would encourage you to give that a read and definitely contact me and other counselors if you have questions or thoughts on that. We also meet tomorrow night in an actual meeting for votes, and we'll be discussing approval of outdoor concerts, land use code amendments regarding the commercial historic district. Very exciting. Probably the biggest thing is the new Lewiston High School classroom wing. We will be discussing first the bond authorization, Gesundheit, which we need 5 votes on. So stay tuned, because it is $13.4 million that we would have to authorize as a bond. The bond council came back and said we need the 5 votes, or that's in the bond limitation rules. So we will be taking that, and then separately we will be hopefully approving an election warrant calling for the bond to be put to public referendum on November 5th, which is our November election. We were asked to make it one of the high turnout elections, which that one traditionally is. So hopefully that will really give us some guidance on what the city wants to do. We'll also be setting our months of July and August schedules, and we've got a bunch of executive sessions.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Ms. Kordemosh.
Where is the school vote on the agenda for the night?
So the bond authorization is item number 4. The regular meeting starts at 7, so I would say that one's probably going to be by 7:10. We don't put times on our agendas. And then the election warrant is, for some reason, we move to solid waste and then we come back to that. So it should be just after.
Thank you.
I do imagine there will be a large discussion around agenda item number 4 and 6.
Thank you.
Curious, why, if let's say the bond is approved, would not the referendum be kind of automatic at that point? Why would you support the bond but not the referendum?
That would be an unusual vote, however, in anyone's purview to take that vote. It has to be separate, I believe, because of the bond council. They would like that matter dealt with only, and then the other matter.
Mr. Shannon.
If I might offer an opinion, that's probably where the solid waste piece gets in between.
Are we done? All right, agenda item number 12, a report from the school committee chair. So I have one thing I'd like to share, and it's kind of a kudos to Bobby. So a while back, I was made aware of a DOJ COPS grant, and the one that caught my attention was the School Violence Preventative Program. So I brought that to the attention of the superintendent and Bobby. And because of my failure to kind of stay on top of it, it got very close to the deadline. So I approached Bobby again and asked her to, and the superintendent, if we could try to get this application process in. And Bobby spent 2 extremely long, 2.5 long days applying for a grant that's about $250,000 that will help our district put up harden our doors, video camera system that ties into the PD, training for restorative justice, which was Bobby's idea, with the assistance of Lewiston PD. It was just 2.5 days of very hard work. Senator Collins, King's office provided support, and some folks from our local delegation provided letters of support. It was really a team effort to get this in as quickly as possible. I read the grant, and I've written COPS grants before. I know how difficult they are. And in the instructions of a COPS grant, they advise you to start months ahead of time because they're so challenging. It's amazing that we were able to get this COPS grant in 2.5 days, which really is a true testament to Bobby, LPD, and I know many staff jumped right in on it. Yeah, so much appreciated, and keep our fingers crossed, because that's a big chunk of money that hopefully we won't have to bond as much because of it. So, all right. Okay. Any questions or comments on? Not much there, but I just wanted to say, all right. And agenda item number 13, report from the school superintendent.
Thank you. So just a few dates. We have, again, the student hearings on Wednesday, June 5th, and I'd like to have our legislative liaison give me some guidance on what bills we think we ought to include in that. Graduation is June 7th. Presumably you've all got information from Assistant Principal Jay Dufour about your responsibilities there. Adult Ed graduation is on, I believe it's June 11th. June 18th is the last full student day. And on the 24th, we have scheduled a personnel only agenda. There'll be a lot of hiring done this month. And I will not be at that meeting. My wife and I have tickets to a concert that night, and Assistant Superintendent Sean Shabbat will be sitting here. Thank you.
Agenda item number 14, future agenda items. With none. Agenda item number 15, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Gagnon, seconded by Ms. Roy. All in favor? Thank you, everybody, for attending the meeting tonight.